The views and opinions expressed by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of our partners, hosts, or affiliates. Our goal is to support short track racing and the dedicated men and women who make it possible while providing entertainment for our listeners. Now, sit back, enjoy the show, and let's hear the stories.
They said, one day you're going to wake up and realize that you spent your whole life with this racing deal.
And it was so funny because we'd go in there and we'd have this, pallet cart just loaded down with sugar, and you see some of these old timers, who's got the knife sticking out of the pocket, and they sort of giving you the eyeball. You walking by, and some of them smile at you and wink, And
we know what you're doing.
It's funny. I had several of them come up and do that. And I know what you boys are up to. I was like, we're just making sweet tea.
And you haven't experienced anything like it.
It was so much fun.
Wheeling the shit out of that thing.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, it's like riding the electric chair.
And you've missed out on a lot of other things.
Alabama is the second most obese state in the union.
Marketing.
And what do you think of when you think of Alabama? Banana pudding.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And my comment back was, yeah, but I did exactly what I wanted to do.
I want to know the stories. I want to hear the stories. Hey guys, welcome back to the Short Track Shakedown, brought to you today by Blackwater Bookkeeping and 5-Star Medicare. I am Josh Goodwin alongside my good friend Jake Moore. Jake, how are you tonight, bud?
Oh, it's a pretty good night.
We are recording this episode on a Friday night versus the Sunday that we normally do because it is Easter weekend. We've got the part 2 episode of the Micha McCall and the McCall family story with us tonight. And I'm really looking forward to hearing Micah's side of things. Mr. Freddie Wayne's show was such a good show, and I really enjoyed that. And I think a lot of people, it's like, what didn't you say it was like number 4 on the list, Jake?
Already made number 4. Yep.
Yeah, that is awesome. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation, and kind of see where it goes. I think we're going to talk about all kinds of things tonight besides motorsport. So y'all hang with us, and let's go.
Yeah, Micah, he's someone to look up to. I've got mad respect for him. He's been probably my favorite track promoter forever, and this is going to be an exciting story here.
Absolutely. Let's get him in the room, Jake.
Let's do it.
Retirement. Have you ever thought about what that word means? Have you ever thought about how it will change your life? Have you thought about negotiating getting on Medicare or Medicaid? Have you thought about what company you may want to go with? I'm sure you have lots of questions just like I would. If you have questions, you need to call Kenny Thorpe at 5-Star Medicare. They make Medicare easy. They deal with Aetna, Cigna, Devoted Health Plans, Humana, and United Healthcare. Kenny can answer all of your questions, even about supplements on Medicare. Please give him a call at 850-525-2424. Again, that's 850-525-2424. Well, Micah, thank you for coming back with us, and this is going to be your episode now. We did the episode with Pop, and he did such a great job, and we really appreciated y'all coming. But now we're going to get down to the nitty gritty and talk with you for a little while.
Man, I appreciate you guys having me back. Anytime you get invited back somewhere, it's a good thing, right?
Absolutely,
So,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been asked to leave the Waffle House before, so and
that's pretty hard.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's not as hard as you think.
Yeah.
It's just one ingredient typically is what it takes.
Well, I used to go to the Waffle House with the Burketts and the Sodners, so you can kind of imagine how
the company you keep.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
I hear you.
Hey, I was never worried if we got in a fight, though.
No.
Oh no. Yeah. I've got somebody like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Adam Purvis, he can tell you exactly how much it costs to replace a Huddle House window.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
That's great.
I'm sure inflation has affected that number a little bit because it's been a little while, but he can tell you exactly how much it costs.
That's too funny.
Yeah.
God. Well, he didn't call Window World. If he called Window
No,
World,
we
he probably
don't
got a better deal.
Yeah,
Maybe.
we don't do that kind of glass though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do residential glass. That would be more of a commercial style glass. Yeah, hell yeah. Well, man, I do thank you for coming back, and and sitting down with us tonight. We are recording on a Friday night versus our Sunday like we normally do, just because it's Easter Sunday, and we certainly appreciate you accommodating that for us. But let's get into your story. Obviously you were with your granddad being from Century. I'm sure you're from up that way as well.
Yeah, I grew up in Fulton, just across the line there, and graduated from Fulton High School, and lived there for a while. I ended up buying a house in Jay, lived there for a little bit, but now I live in Bruton.
Bruton, okay. Yep. So you up there around where Mr. Crenshaw and everybody was?
Yep. Just across the river.
Well, that ain't where? Murder Creek.
Yep. I was raised by my grandparents pretty much. Over there, I grew up with my grandparents on my mom's side. Mm-hmm. So Bo and Dot Brantley, they're pretty much raised me up, got me through high school and sent me on my way. I always tell everybody they're the ones that raised me, and the grandparents on my dad's side, they're the ones that turned me into a man. Basically made me what I am. So very, very fortunate to have both sets of grandparents alive, still living. Mm-hmm. Getting some mileage on them now, but still just very, very fortunate to have that. Yeah. And that's a lot of what has sort of turned me into who I am, being raised by that older generation.
Made you an old soul.
Yeah. And I just, I appreciate a lot of things in life because of that mm-hmm. I think other people my age really don't. Mm-hmm. Got a lot of respect for them. I'll do anything in the world for them. I mean, they call right now. We got to cut this short.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I understand that completely.
I was raised by them, and I met my wife in high school. I married the prettiest girl in school, and I have no problem being the ugly one in the relationship.
That's good.
So I shot way better, way beyond what I should have shot, and she's great. Got 2 kids.
I love y'all's relationship. I see your post on Facebook.
Oh my God, that's the greatest thing.
It really is. Y'all take a look at this doorknob right here. It's something.
You wanted to know my story, and I told you it's a comedy.
Yeah.
How she puts up with my shit, I don't know, but yeah,
it is hilarious.
I'm very proud of my wife's and her assets, and I'm very proud of that.
That's great.
That's awesome. I love it. But
yeah, she wants to kill me often, but a little backstory on that. I don't remember where we were. We were on vacation, and I think the kids were playing or whatever. I posted a picture online, and her ass was in the picture. Mm-hmm. But excuse me, it was in the picture, and she went to chewing me out, about that. And she's like, "You can't post that, my ass in the picture, and all this and that." And I was. Told her, as much money as I've got tied up in that, I will post it every day for a year.
No doubt.
And I got a good 4.5 months into it.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. That was awesome.
Yeah, there was a time I would open Facebook looking for it because I knew there had to be one coming.
Yeah, but I had to go back. I had to go to work, and I was out at work for like a month. Yeah, and I couldn't get any more content.
I'll be down.
Yeah, she wouldn't send me anything, so that kind of put a stop
to
it.
How did you not die during that period? I mean, that's a secret.
I do all the cooking.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I do all the cooking, and
that's a good defense.
I watch it from the frying pan to the plate.
Okay.
All the way through. Okay. Never took my eye off.
That's.
But right. she has told me several times like how she said is going to kill me. So I don't know if I'm out of the water yet, but but she's a nurse and she knows how to do it where it's untraceable.
Oh shit!
So you just know, just know that,
just know Mike is finally screwed up.
Just know that I didn't OD.
You're right, yeah.
Okay, that I didn't do it.
Yeah, fight for me. I did not kill myself.
That's it.
If you're an Escambia County, Alabama detective, here's your lead.
Yeah. So, my number may get drawn one day.
Right.
Who knows?
That is too funny. Well, y'all have a great relationship, obviously, and it's always fun to see, husband and wives that can have a good time like that. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. I think a lot of people do.
But after graduation, you got married. Obviously, you've got some wonderful kids. Owen's even racing now and stuff like that. But you've had a pretty extensive career flying. Tell me about that.
Yeah, my granddad owned a pipeline patrol company. flying small, like 172s and malls, flying over oil and gas pipelines at really low level, and just doing a visual inspection on them and reporting back the findings to the company. So, leaks, of course. Anytime there was equipment on the pipeline right of way, just like a road, that pipelines have right of ways. So anytime there was any digging or a logging crew using the road, using the right of way as a road or anything like that, we reported that back to the company, and they would then go out and do remedial action to make sure
rectify the situation.
Just make sure that the integrity of the right of way in the pipeline was not hampered. And I've done that for 15 years.
Now, was that local, or did you have to fly?
Everything was based out of Bruton.
Okay.
But it turned out to be, we built it up to where it was a nationwide company.
Oh, wow.
Had a lot of work. I developed a lot of work out in South and West Texas.
No doubt.
Picked up a good bit of work up in Montana and Wyoming. So I ended up doing a lot over there in the Carolinas. So it built up and turned into a really, really successful outfit.
Mm-hmm.
I guess when you have an airplane, there's no job too far.
No, it's man, a lot of time. A lot of time. I've probably got more flying hours than 99% of the pilots in the world.
Wow.
Just doing that, because you just build a lot of time. You're sitting in that 172 for 14 hours a day.
Was that a prop plane, or was that a...
Yeah, it was a prop.
Was it?
Prop, yeah.
Single prop or dual prop?
Single.
Single? Wow.
Yep. Single engine.
So I've mentioned it on the show before, but I've always been fascinated with flying. Something I've always wanted to try. I've just never took the time to get a license or even look into it, for that matter. But
I've never been in an airplane.
It's just like racing, or a boat. Light money on fire and throw it away. Yeah, that's what you're doing.
Well, see, I was always, if there's a helicopter ride like the fair, I've rode that helicopter 100 times. We went to Branson, Missouri one time on vacation. They offered a helicopter ride there, and I begged my parents, bugged them until they let me do it in airplanes. So that stuff's always fascinated me. In fact, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a fighter pilot, and I had some medical issues that prevented me from pursuing that. But I've always thought it was the coolest thing.
Yeah, helicopters. That's I've flown one helicopter, and I got out of it knowing less about it when I got out of it than I did when I got in it.
No doubt.
But that's a bucket list thing for me. I kind of want to, it made me feel so stupid because it's just so different. When in an airplane, you're making large control inputs. Helicopter, you hold it still and you think about it. If you want to go right, you just think about it.
Yeah,
it's like you're very, very gentle on the controls, and that's something that, like I said, it made me feel really stupid. And it's like,
probably get away from you quick.
I'm gonna conquer this beast before it's all over with. So before my day is done, I'll have my helicopter certificate.
Okay.
So obviously, flying is a passion of yours, and you love it.
It's a job.
Okay.
Yeah. As far as a passion, it's something I'm really good at.
It's a gift.
It's something I'm really good at, and it pays well.
Yeah.
Now, as far as a passion, do I go and hang out at airports on the weekends?
Yeah.
No. Do I go to air shows? Nah. But I'm good at it.
Yeah.
I'm very confident in myself. But as far as a passion, no. But I'm really good at it, and I make good money doing it.
Now, did y'all shut that aerial business down?
No, it's still going.
Is it?
It's still going. My dad runs it. I run it. Operated in that business for, like I said, about 15 years. And I was doing a lot there toward the end of it. And at the time we had the racetrack going. I had was doing the pipeline business, and also had Murder Creek going at the same time. Started it up and got it going the last couple of years.
That's a lot.
I was doing that, and it was a lot. A lot. And, 2 kids, a wife, she's working, trying to juggle everything. It just really turned into a lot.
I know what it's like to run one business, so I can only imagine all of that.
Yeah. So we, I ended up getting, Murder Creek up and going, and got it really successful, and opened up the place down in Foley. And I kind of wanted to go all in on that. So, doing the moonshine thing, something I really enjoyed. I didn't drink it much.
We learned last episode you have some family history in it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just
Hey, Josh.
Yes, sir.
We've started talking a lot about the start of the 2025 racing season. Do you know what other season to start?
What season is that, Jake?
That's going to be tax season.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and Steph over at Blackwater Bookkeeping can help you get your return filled without even leaving your house.
Oh, that would be nice.
Steph not only does taxes, but she can also help your small business with all your bookkeeping needs. From startups to cleanups, she can get it done. Give her a call or text today, 850-290-3043.
Yeah, so let's elaborate on that a little bit. How did that even come about? I mean, how did Murder Creek get started?
Well, I had it sort of circles back to the pipeline company.
Mm-hmm.
For a long time, we had a niche in the market through some video capabilities that my dad and granddad sort of developed, and that was the niche. Didn't use it much, but it was enough to get contracts. It was enough that when you went and bid on a contract, it gave you the separation between yourself and the competitors.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
typically you got the nod.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that technology was so far outdated
Mm-hmm.
In the last few years that I was in it. So we developed another imaging system that was really good. It was built to do linear asset imaging and mapping.
Mm-hmm.
So, of pipelines, power lines, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So basically just fly down the line. The camera is automatically taking pictures and it's overlapping those images by 70%. You get done with the flight, you can send it through a post-processing software, and it would create what is called a point cloud, basically a three-dimensional model.
Oh, wow.
Were you using LiDAR?
No.
Really?
Similar to LiDAR, where LiDAR is laser returns.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing it with pixels.
Okay.
So essentially.
Okay.
So we have GPS control on it.
Mm-hmm.
So you know where the picture was taken from. You're overlapping by 70%. So you got multiple points.
Using similar technology to what we're doing with surveying with drones and
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very, very similar. But we done that in the airplane. We were also doing thermal infrared in on top of it. So we could do you like Google tiles of that. But it was really good. And it was the advantage that we needed to go forth and get more contracts, which we did. But it also turned into a forestry product. So we could go out and do a pine stand or timber stand. Doesn't have to necessarily be pine. But you can say if you were a big timber owner and you want to know how much inventory you had, we could go out and map this area as opposed to you hiring cruisers that would go out. Let's just say you had 500,000 acres. It would take cruisers going out there and doing samples, taking small samples of each area, and then coming up with a educated guess.
Like
using math to average it.
Yeah. Measuring them at breast height, standing back with their little string and trying to measure the height of it.
We're having technical difficulties here. Josh has near about lost his mic.
Malfunction at the junction.
Sorry.
So
we'll cut that
had
out.
to mention it because I can't cut it out because he was talking.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So back to business.
Yeah.
But no, we would go out and we'd shoot this, we'd do basically like mowing the lawn, right? Fly back and forth, capture all these images. We're doing 70, sometimes 90% down lap, 60% side lap on these images, and then create that point cloud model. And then using ground control overlay in it, we could tell you within 99% accuracy what your board foot was.
Oh, wow.
And we could do it in a matter of 3 weeks. Give you 99% accuracy what your inventory was.
That's cool. I'm learning a little bit about that because I'm in the construction industry. We're using, like I mentioned earlier, but it's cool to see other things. Like y'all found other ways to use similar technology.
We went over to the what's the plant? The power plant just north of Pensacola there.
Chris plant.
Early on in it, just sort of developing it, we went and flew an orbit over that, splayed the camera out, and taking pictures as we go around it, and just taking pictures every half a second. And at the time, they were still burning coal. I don't know if they are now or not. But that coal pile, we could do volumetrics on it.
Uh-huh.
And we could tell you how many cubic yard you had.
Oh, wow.
In the coal pile. So it was just different little technology like that. Well, a couple of guys that helped develop that, and it was fully developed sort of in-house. We brought these guys in, and developed that process. But it was a control system that we used for the cameras. Had a little Panasonic Tough Pad in there, and we used that control system to operate this whole deal. Well, we got to fooling around talking one day, and just dabbling with the moonshine thing, and got to thinking about it. It's like, it's not a science like everybody thinks it is, or, when you watch the Moonshiner show, they try to make it out like it's an art or it's a science, or, or it's really, I said that wrong. It's not an art. It's just science, right? So from my time in the oil and gas industry, understanding what refining is, and being able to do this control system, we determined that we can control this because all distilling is the same as refining. It's just the separation of solution by temperatures. And if you know what those temperatures are, where it separates at, you can control it.
Yeah, it's predictable.
Yeah. So built this still, had about $2,000 in it. And we built this still that worked. I'm going to try to explain it so the listener can understand. But it took a 13-gallon milk can, stainless steel milk can, and a 5-gallon stainless steel milk can. So you make your mash up over here in a 270-gallon tote, and we put a valve on it with a pump. On the 13-gallon milk can, we put a float switch up at the top of it so that we would know when it was full. So the way the system worked, we turn it on, it would fill it up to the float switch hit. That tells the system, shut the valve off, turn the pump off, fire the heater up. And the heater is just a water heater.
Heating the mash.
It's just a water heater element.
Right, yeah.
So you can control it. We would pulse it on and off,
to keep it at a certain
1 second at a time.
temperature,
Bring it up nice and slow.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Bring it up nice and slow. And once we hit that certain temperature, because we had a temperature sensor up at the top of it, a little temperature probe up at the top, so we would know what our steam was and where we were getting the separation from, the alcohol from the water, basically. Yeah. So we'd get that across. It would go through a condenser and it'd go into a holding can. Well, once we, monitoring that temperature, we would know when we got all the alcohol off and when it was just the tails, right? So initially we're bringing off the heads, which is the nasty part, and the spirit, the body, bringing it over, and we're leaving the water. So once we know that we got that temperature right, we would turn the burner off. It would open a flush valve, dump it out, had it by a timer. Once you know that it was empty, based off the timer, just how long it takes to, for the volumetrics for it to drain out of a 3/4 inch hole.
Then that's a self-contained system. As long as you've got mash in it, like to feed it, it's a self-contained unit.
So once it drained out, shut
cow.
the dump valve. System tells the pump to fire up, valve to open up, fill up,
starts the process.
Fire
over.
the burner, does it again. Goes
what
again.
kind of system's controlling this? How did you build that, or did you buy it?
No, it's off the shelf. Everything is off the shelf products. There's nothing.
Yeah.
There was nothing patented or protected.
You didn't have no kind of control board. You had a program.
Arduino board.
Arduino.
Yep.
Okay, that's where I was going. I figured you had that.
Yeah, just cheap little relays. Initially we had to do a 12-volt battery because some of the valves that we used were 12 volt. Ended up getting DC converters on everything, AC converters on it. Excuse me. And switching everything over.
I'm actually designing a system with an Arduino board right now for data collection on a race car. I want to put travel sensors and wheel speed sensors and all that stuff.
Attaboy. You can only have it in practice.
That's right.
That's right. That's all I needed.
Yeah. So once that first run, it goes over to a charcoal mellowing tank. So the charcoal sort of doing its thing, getting some of the sulfurs out and just sort of mellowing it out a little bit. Well, then it would go into a 5-gallon. Once that holding tank, that charcoal holding tank filled up to a certain amount. So it would take several runs of the 13-gallon one and it would fill up. And then after X amount of runs, the system knew to open the valve on the little one. And the same thing is happening. Except for we've got, instead of just a regular horned condenser, we've got a 14-foot tall copper column pipe that's stuffed with copper mesh. And it's a refraction column, basically. So as the steam travels up, it hits a cold spot in the pipe, condenses back into, to a liquid, falls back down till it heats up again. And just over and over, going from a gas to a liquid, gas to a liquid, gas to a liquid, till it finally is light enough to get to the top. So all of your heavies are falling out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're getting nothing but nice, clean, 190 proof alcohol up to the top. But you're also getting your heads.
Yeah, right.
So we had 2 valves up there. One that would separate the heads based off temperature, would separate the heads and put it back into the charcoal tank because there's good alcohol in it. Just a lot of other stuff that you don't want.
Right.
Fusel oils, all this other stuff that you don't want.
Right.
So we would just recycle that and keep running it through
until it could come out clean.
And it would come off at 190 proof and go into our finished product tank. So it was designed because it was all illegal at the time, so that it could be a 1-man, 1 day a week operation. And we put
and that was just making the mash.
Yeah, just making them, making your mash, which you would have 2 mash tanks. So basically, you're just cleaning out, refilling that one, moving the hose over to the other one, hit and go, grabbing the other stuff, and getting the hell out of there. Because if you're not there, you can't get caught with it.
Right.
So we put it in this shop that my granddaddy bought. That was a former lawnmower repair shop / meth lab.
Already illegal stuff happened there.
Yeah. Cops won't ever look there.
Yeah. But he bought it, and my dad had a bunch of his race cars and stuff in there. So nobody would think anything about walking out with a drum or some cans of fuel or whatever. So I would take everything back to my office at the airport, and I would do all my flavoring and jarring up because they're not going to come look there either. Right. It's a place of business.
Right.
So load everything up in the airplanes, was taking it to Mississippi and Texas and selling everything out there because you don't shit where you eat. So it wasn't selling around here. I did.
Now, is the statute of limitations passed?
Oh, yeah.
Just
we're
making
good.
sure.
We're good.
This is a public podcast.
Yeah, we're good. But, as I was flavoring it and working up my different flavor profiles, I was taking it out to the racetrack and letting my guys
constituents.
It was good, too. It was real good.
Let my guys be my panel.
I enjoyed it.
So I would take them 3 jars, A, B, and C, try it. They would all try it. I'd get their feedback. We'd settle on one. I'd go back. I'd make 3 variations of that one, come back. And I would do that 3 times before we settled on a product that would be the finished product.
Right.
And they were really good.
Yeah.
They were really good. They were really good at it,
Very, very tasty.
So then you get 2016, we get a new president. Before then, it was not worth it to go legal because the federal excise tax on it was $13.62 a gallon. It was extremely high.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there was just no margin. So it could only be a hobby.
Are you looking to transform your property? Do you need a pool removed, land cleared, or expert grading for your next big project? Look no further than More Site Solutions. One thing that makes More Site Solutions different than other companies, when you call, you're not just getting a business, you're getting Jake. That's right, the owner. Jake personally answers your phone call, shows up for every estimate, and never leaves you hanging. No ghosting, no excuses, just honest, reliable service from start to finish. And if you're the DIY type, they have you covered too. More Site Solutions can supply the materials you need to get the job done right. So whether it's a big project or a small one, More Site Solutions is ready to make it happen. Give Jake a call today at 850-332-2827, and let's get to work.
In 2017, when Trump passed his tax reform, he lowered the federal excise tax from $13.62 a proof gallon down to like $2.70 a proof gallon.
Oh, that's substantial. Yeah.
For small batch wineries, distilleries, and breweries. Anybody that done less than 100,000 proof gallons a year got that break. So like Jim Beam, Jack Daniels, all those guys, they're still paying the big tax. But it made it possible for a little guy to come in and make a margin.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
But there was a time limit on it of 2 years. So the decision was made, we got to go legal. We got to do it right now.
And you got to get big enough where you can take advantage of it. Yeah.
We got to be big enough so that when that break goes away, we're big enough to be able to absorb it and take it on.
You're established at that point.
So that's what we done. We hurried up, broke everything down, got it out of there, cleaned the place up, got all the race cars, everything out, got it to where it would pass health inspection, And
I know where this shop is.
Yeah, it took us about 6 months to get legal.
About 5 minutes from my house.
Yeah. And once we got it legal, we were able to open the doors. We opened the doors with 4 flavors.
Mm-hmm.
And by God, I think we done opening day, I think I'd done $25,000 in sales.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was just incredible. It was a hot new thing.
I remember it was a big thing.
It was a big deal, man. We couldn't make it enough.
Yeah.
And then it went through, your normal growing pains like anything else does. But we got some traction, started releasing a few new flavors, got a little better at it, started getting some distribution, and, done well with that for a couple of years just out of that little shop.
Mm-hmm.
And the opportunity came to open a place up in Owa. The Porch Creek Indians come to us. Say, hey,
which is awesome.
Yeah, which is awesome. It's a great opportunity. And we done that. And man, it was just beautiful place.
Yeah.
Beautiful
it
place
really
down
was.
there. It was
I
great.
was over there when y'all opened that. Y'all's grand opening. It was beautiful.
Yeah, it was a great location and was doing really well with it. Run that for a year down there, running 2 locations, increasing distribution. Was just doing great, and was looking to open up a 3rd location. And unfortunately, me and the 3 other owners, one was my dad, and the other 2 guys I was talking about, they sort of helped us develop that camera system. We had a coming apart, different ideas, and it just fell apart rather quickly. And I just told him, just buy me out. Buy me out and I'll be done with it. And so we did that. And they bought me out and ended up getting the shop, keeping that. So got race cars in there now.
Okay.
And
I didn't know you were that close to me. I live on Dixonville Road.
Okay. Yeah, I live on Travis Road.
Okay.
So I'm just right up the road from it.
I didn't even know that.
Yep. But yeah, ended up doing that, getting out of that. And
they say, I've heard in business multiple times, that in business, the only ship that doesn't sail is a partnership.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got different views on things, and I'll be honest with you, a couple of them were wanting to just be a hobby shop for them, just enough to pay their way, and I'm not that kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted to grow it.
I wanted to grow it and keep it going, and
I remember
open up.
Being out of town, and we were far. I don't remember where it was, but it wasn't like close. I'm not talking about like 2 towns over. I'm talking about out of town, and I went to the liquor store and saw Murder Creek on the shelf, and was like, "Holy crap, that's cool!"
Yeah, man, we were doing great with it, but it got to where it was causing problems with the family.
Mm-hmm.
Just stretching me so thin.
Mm-hmm.
And, when we started having differences of opinion, things were going south really quick as far as that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I just write me a check.
Yeah, and be done with
And I'll go to the house. And so we worked up, got the attorneys involved and worked out a buyout and done that. So I spent a couple of months just sort of twiddling my thumbs, and I helped Justin, because I had some family working with me. My brother-in-law was working with me. My cousin was working with me. So we worked on some things to try to get them up and going, get them on their feet, because they left when I left. So we done that. And then around the same time, the regional airlines started increasing their pay the way they were doing. Initially, if you went to the regional airlines, you were starving to death for a few years.
Right.
I mean, you're making there's pilots making less than minimum wage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was just not worth it at all. But there was a huge pilot shortage. And they started raising the pay rates up substantially. And it was never worth it. Like, I always kind of wanted to go and do that, but it was never worth it to me to go and do that for a few years. And God bless the guys that did. I got a ton of respect for those guys. But it was never worth it to me to go and do that. Try to provide for the family, and there's a certain amount of money that you need to be gone, right? That's the reason you go out of town, is to go get the good money,
right? Absolutely.
If you want to make bad money, you just work it down.
Yeah, it's worth going out of town for. But they bumped the pay up, and I told my wife, I think it's time to time for me to jump and go do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to work for a company that was a regional for one of the major airlines, contract company for them. So I went to work doing that, flying jets. And I've been doing that ever since. And
what are you flying?
I actually just swapped companies
Mm-hmm.
and flying the CRJ 900s now.
Okay.
So captain in the CRJ 900 for it's a regional company, but they're owned by a major,
Right.
one of the probably the biggest airline. Every one of them claims something different, that they're the best and whatever. But this very reputable company, and doing captain for them.
Nice.
So I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot less stress. My phone doesn't ring unless it's my wife.
All you got to
calling
do is
to
get
fuss
the plane
about
from
something.
point A to point B.
Yeah, that's what I tell you. You know, if that plane breaks, as long as I can get it to the gate, it's not my problem.
Right.
You know, I pull up to the gate, set the parking brake. We'll see you next time, boys. You know, and I don't have to worry about it. When we were doing the pipeline company, at the drop of a hat, I'd have to jump and grab the trailer and go to San Antonio, unannounced, and just have to go. And same way, Montana, something, plane breaks or whatever, you got to go.
Yeah.
You know,
You got to go fix it.
it's not my problem. That's what I love so much about what I'm doing now, is it is not my problem.
Less stress.
Yes. Less stress. And
I can get that.
yeah, I love what I do. I hate being gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate that with a passion, but
Are you going quite a bit, or?
it varies. I'm about half the month, but if my trips sort of line up the wrong way,
Mm-hmm.
I get sort of limited time at home. So
Yeah.
like I have a 4-day trip, 3 days off, and I go right back into another 4-day trip.
Mm.
But being based, not living in the airport where I'm based at,
Yeah.
I'm traveling a lot,
Mhm.
because I got to go to, Milwaukee, or got to go to New York, and to get on these planes and start my trip. Like that is my commute.
So how does that work? Do you just deadhead over there, or like just?
No, you have to find your own way, but we're able to jump seat.
Mhm.
That's what we call jump seat.
Yeah.
On any airline.
No doubt.
So I just go to Pensacola, get on a flight that has an open seat or open jump seat in the cockpit,
Yeah.
and go to work. So I have to go there to start and end my trips.
Oh wow.
So, if I have an early start, say if I have a 6 a.m. showtime,
Mm-hmm.
I've got to travel up the day before because there's nothing out of Pensacola that's going to get me there.
Right. Right.
So
right.
I'm burning up one of my days off traveling.
Mm-hmm.
And if the trip ends late, then I can't get home that night. I have to get home the next day. So I'm burning off another
Day off.
day
Yeah.
that way. So if I can stack all of my flying at one end of the month, either, front
Yeah.
side or back side, I get more quality time at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
I
know.
can see that.
So it's really not bad. Like I said, when I'm home, I'm home. And I haven't had that
All right.
ever in my life.
Mm-hmm.
You're always at work whenever you
Yeah.
own a business.
Yeah. Oh, you that better than anybody. Both of you do. You would never have any downtime,
Mm.
but yeah, I really enjoy that.
With Mother Nature doing all these crazy things here lately, especially the winter storms, you may have noticed your curtains blowing in the breeze every time the wind blows. If that is the case, give Window World of Pensacola a call. They specialize in non-impact and impact-rated windows for all residential needs. They are located at 10108 North Palafox Street in Pensacola, or you can give them a call at 850-484-9998. We'll be happy to help you with all of your window needs.
There's one thing I got to know.
All right.
Who come up with the banana pudding?
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
I got to hear that
Yeah.
story.
Even
I don't know if there's much to it or not, but I think that's one of the best things y'all did.
It's really not. Alabama is the second most obese state in the union.
Marketing.
And what do you think of when you think of Alabama? Banana pudding.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mama loved that stuff.
That was the thought behind it. And we just start throwing stuff in a jar and figuring out what hits. You know? And we done several different renditions and finally landed on something
It's funny, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you know more about it than I do, obviously, but I think the other big moonshine companies copied y'all.
That did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that they just didn't, it wasn't coincidence, because I was like,
No.
y'all had it out, and all of a sudden, Old Smokey had it.
Yeah, yeah. We poked fun at them because I've done all the social media, and everything. And, I learned a lot of promotion through my days at the racetrack of what works and what, and always, with the moonshine company, you don't always have to be politically correct. So, yeah, we poked fun at them a good bit, because, really, we were copying them. They blazed the trail. We're just going in behind them and improving on it. Because a lot of the bigger companies, their product is just garbage. They're selling the experience. When you go there, when you go up to Gatlinburg or Pigeon Forge and you go through the experience, that's what they're selling you. And of course, the TV shows and all that made it popular.
Yeah, but the liquor really wasn't that good.
It was not good,
so it burned you.
If you could sell them the experience and have them something that actually tasted halfway decent, then you could do well with it.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that you told me a long time ago, and I don't think a lot of people know this, that was not a corn liquor that y'all were making, was it?
It was sugar.
It was a sugar. So how do you make a mash based off of sugar versus corn? Same way with yeast and just use corn.
Well, you got to go back. You got to go back to the history of why corn to begin with. So you go back into history, and I'll give you a couple of history lessons here. Well, I'm going to tell you the first story. Where did moonshine come from? What's the?
It was during Prohibition. I mean, people were making it to trying to figure out a way
term,
to get.
Like what is it? Where did it come from? The federal government and none of the states actually recognize moonshine as a category. So if you go pick up any jar of moonshine from the liquor store and you look at it, it's going to say liqueur, or
it's not considered a liquor.
Distilled spirits or artificial flavors added or something like that. It's not. It's gonna. There is no such thing. There's no such category as moonshine.
Okay.
Moonshine can technically be anything that the taxes are not paid on, an illicit spirit, right?
I got you. Okay.
But still, where did the term moonshine come from? Nobody really knows. But here it is. All right. Right after the Revolutionary War, the First Continental Congress run up a huge debt with the First Continental Army, right? So they had to find a way to pay for that. Well, there was only a couple of things that they could really tax, that everybody done. It was either church,
which would have been a bad idea.
A terrible idea, because that's the whole reason we were in this fight to begin with.
Right.
One of the reasons. Yeah. Or spirits. Everybody done it.
Everybody was drinking a little something.
Everybody was doing it. George Washington, he was very popular for his spirits, right?
Right.
So they said, they went to all the distillers and said, you're going to pay us a tax. They said, no,
not either.
So you're
we just started a revolution over there in Boston.
You're going to pay us. You're going to pay us cash. We need cash. You're going to pay us cash, or we're going to throw you in jail. So I don't have any cash. This was a tradable good. I needed shoes on my horses. You're a blacksmith. You needed my liquor. It's a tradable good. Same way. Your wife's a seamstress. I need clothes for my kids. It's a tradable good.
And before there was currency, that's what
that was it. So I don't have any cash. I can give you liquor, but I can't give you any cash. So when you're going to give us cash, you're going to throw you in jail. To hell you are. So where did they go? Where's the the first 13 colonies? Yeah. Over on the East Coast. So where did they go? They couldn't go to the east because that's water. They went west into the Appalachian Mountains
to get away from the government,
using that haze, using the mountains, using the light of the moon to distill this shiny spirit.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Moonshine. Yeah. So that's where it came from.
I love history.
Then you roll into Prohibition time. Which Prohibition was only a small part of it, like 4 years.
Right.
But even before then, they still wanted the taxes on this stuff. So what were they tracking? How were they trying to catch them? They were tracking sugar sales, because corn is just a high fructose, high sugar substance.
Yeah.
So all you're doing is converting the corn to the sugars that the yeast need to convert and create the alcohol.
Okay.
So instead of using sugar, going down to the wholesale store and buying up, sacks of sugar,
throwing up a red flag,
nobody's going to say anything about corn. Corn, you couldn't track it. So that's what they were using. That's why corn became so popular.
Wow.
With the term.
So basically just turning corn into sugar. So if you're doing that, might as well just use sugar.
Yeah. Yeah. And you could do it with anything. I mean, brandy's, it's the sugar in the fruits, Same way with, molasses, anything. You can do it out of anything. The easiest thing to do is use sugar.
Wow.
Because it's already there.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to convert anything.
Now, could you use like real cane sugar, or could you use like regular table sugar, or what kind of?
I was just buying sugar from Sam's for the longest time.
I gotcha.
And it was so funny because we'd go in there and we'd have this, pallet cart just loaded down with sugar, and you see some of these old timers, it's got the knife sticking out of the pocket, and they sort of giving you the eyeball. You walking by, and some of them smile at you and wink, And
we know what you're doing.
It's funny. I had several of them come up and do that. And say, I know what you boys are up to. I was like, we're just making sweet tea.
Making sweet tea.
A lot of sweet tea. A
lot of sweet tea.
I think that ended up being a flavor too, didn't it? Sweet tea. Didn't y'all make some sweet tea stuff?
We made one similar to it.
Yeah.
It was a black tea with sweetened with honey.
Yeah.
More like a Baron Jaeger type German drink, and really thought that was going to be the one, that sort of separated us. And we put it in a unique bottle and thought, this is different. It ended up not necessarily being a flop, but it wasn't what.
What was the flavor?
Oh, the one that just blew us over the top was banana pudding.
Was it?
Yeah, because it was so different, creamy.
Nobody had ever done that.
Nobody had ever done it yet, and it was so much better than what the competition come out with.
Yeah,
it blew us through the roof.
I guess.
I remember if you were at a party or a racetrack, you pulled banana pudding out, you had the whole racetrack there.
Oh
yeah. And the jar was empty very quickly.
Very quickly.
Yeah,
and that stuff would sneak up on you because it was so good. You would just keep drinking it. And before you knew it, you were pretty toasted.
Yeah, you're burnt.
I didn't drink much of it. It was just too sweet.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, I really didn't drink a whole lot of what we made, and you don't want to get high on your own supply.
Right.
So so we didn't. I really didn't fool with it a lot, but people just loved it, and the market was, this is, we talked about the banana pudding in Alabama being what it is, but the market was the 21 to 35-year-old white female. If you can get them to drink it, the boys are going to buy it.
Yeah.
That's why all the vodkas have all the different flavors.
Yeah. So, everything was, around 40 proof. We had a few 60. But you had to get it down low enough that the girls would drink it, so that the boys would buy it.
That's good marketing.
And that's just what it is. Knowing your demographic, knowing your area to go in. But yeah, I mean, we had a lot of fun doing that. Like I said, a lot of stress. I don't go to bars today, just because of the stress that it put on the marriage and different things. But just being in that environment was creating a lot of stress. Being gone, having to just go all the time. It just created a lot of stress. So it was really a blessing when things sort of fell apart. I mean, me and Christy, our marriage is stronger now than what it has ever been.
Right.
I'm very thankful for it. I get to spend more time with the kids, more quality time with the kids, than what I ever have. So it was really a blessing that
at the end of the day, that's the most important thing.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And same way, it was the same way with when we had the racetrack. Just every Friday, Saturday night,
right?
Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, often Wednesdays. Just spending so much time. I had my daughter. We went up to the racetrack in Flumpton just a week or so ago, and she asked me. She said, "Why did you ever shut this place down?" And I just told her, "Because of you." And just as naive as she could be, she said, "What did I do?" I just told her, I said, a lot of things, a lot of things that I wasn't there for.
Right.
So that was just sort of another reason. It wasn't the main, it was just one of the reasons that we cut it down.
I want to touch on that because, we talk about support your dirt tracks and all this other stuff. And when people get on here on Facebook bashing a track or something like that, that's some of the things you don't. People don't think about the time these guys are sacrificing away from their family to give you a place to race.
Racetrack promotions is the most thankless job
absolutely
that you will ever do. I mean, ever. And we can rock and roll on this for a long time. But, there's so much work goes into these tracks. And I'm not saying that they get a free pass.
Right.
Not by any means. You should want to hold them accountable, but support them at the same time.
Recognize the sacrifice. And
there's racetracks shutting down all across the country, And
we are blessed to have the amount of
100%.
tracks we have. I had a guy drive from Jacksonville this week. It's actually the vinyl machine that I bought from you. I sold it
Oh, did you really?
for a hefty profit.
Wow.
And anyways, he came from Jacksonville and he used to race. He was from California and all this other stuff. And, he was like, man, there just ain't no tracks back where I have it. I said, well, where I'm standing, you can, in a 50-mile radius, you can go to 4 dirt tracks.
Yep.
And it blew his mind. He said he has lived in California, New York, all over the place. And he said he's never been somewhere you could get to that many dirt tracks in one spot.
Yep. Yeah, very, very fortunate around here. But these tracks wouldn't close if they had more support.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if they were run a little better, maybe they would have more support. It's a catch-22 either way you go. But that's what I'm saying. You got to hold them accountable.
Mm-hmm.
But man, just support them the best you can, and don't kick them. Don't kick them when they're down. Mm-hmm. Not every decision is the right decision.
And you can hold them accountable, not publicly.
Yeah.
You can sit down and go talk with the owner or whatever your promoter, whoever.
Yeah.
And voice your what you're pissed off about or mad about or whatever.
Some encouragement goes a long way.
Right.
Offer to help. I've done it several times where, I've reached out and, just hit people up, put some flyers out,
mm-hmm.
and they would do it. And so there's several things we can do there, but
mm-hmm.
So that's my professional career right there.
With the economy back on the rise and interest rates coming down, if you're looking for a new home in the Panhandle area, give Levada Burrows McIntyre a call with Century 21 BE3. She's been serving the Panhandle, helping buyers and sellers achieve all of their real estate needs. Give her a call at 850-554-2180 or find her on her website at levadasales.com.
Let's get into the racing side of it.
Oh, this is a racing podcast?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt. Let's get into the racing side of it, though. I know that, your dad raced it for you and this and that. You actually put a video out on Facebook that I thought was really cool this week of you driving that story you told about driving the sprint car. You put the video of that out this week, and I thought that was really good.
Yeah, something Brian Lane posted several years ago, whenever it happened, and man, it was so much fun.
You wheeling the shit out of that thing.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, it's like riding the electric chair.
Yeah.
I think that's as close to his using meth as you can get, still keep your teeth.
Right. Yeah. No doubt.
It was wild. It was fun. But no, I started, my brother actually started before me, Bo. He started racing when he was 13. And he was driving an old 75 Nova. He run it for a few years. And I was raised more from my mom's parents. I was raised to spend more time with them, and I was more of the athlete. Which that grandfather, Bo Brantley, he was the announcer for the Flemington Hurricane football team and he done it for 55 years.
Mm-hmm.
So just being around that, I sort of leaned a little more into the athletic world than what Bo did. Bo was a lot more mechanical. He spent a lot more time with my grandparents, and when we were little going to the track with them, at Saturday night, I would either go home with, my dad, and, at the time we were all living together before they got divorced. We could either go home with him or, my granddad would take us home.
Mm-hmm.
And they were the best grandparents, but their house was dark. I was little and I was scared. So
Yep.
Bo would go over there every Saturday night, and I would go back home. So he had a better connection with that set of grandparents than what I did. Of course, he was older.
Yeah.
And he started racing, and he done that for a few years. I leaned more toward the sports. Then built Bo another car. Granddaddy did a car that Craig Turner had built.
Mm-hmm.
85 Monte Carlo, and he was running the hobby class with it. And he done that for a little bit. Well, I ended up being able to take over that 75 Nova. And my very first time racing, or even being in a car, he was still driving that Nova, and we went up to Greenville. Flemington was shut down at the time, and we were driving every Saturday night up to Greenville and racing up there at Butler County Motorsports Park.
Mm-hmm.
And I got in that car one night after the races, and I could barely see over the steering wheel. No steering quickener in it. So 30 turns to the left, 40 turns to the right. And I made my first laps in that and done good except for the last lap. And I spun it and about put it in the front stretch wall, got to stop. So it was good. Well, a couple of weeks later, Bo didn't want to race.
Mm-hmm.
And he just decided he didn't want to. I don't know what he had, church youth group function or something that he went to. And they decided to put me in the car and we went and raced. I was nervous as I could get.
Mm-hmm.
And we went up there and I don't remember. Transmission ended up burning up on it. But it didn't help that I was over in the watermelon patch, trying to figure that out.
Right.
The way that track was, you go down the straightaway, you went up the hill into the corner, down the hill and down the straightaway.
Right.
But it had like a false looking straightaway when you got in that corner. And I just drove it smooth off the backstretch. I didn't realize until it was dark that I wasn't even on the track. Of course, like I said, I couldn't see. I was looking through the gap between the dash and the steering wheel.
All right.
And anyways, I spun it over in the watermelon patch and ended up burning the transmission up. So that was my first race.
All right.
So I didn't get an opportunity to race for a while after that. Bo got back in the car and he done it for a little while. And I was playing sports, football and baseball. And then Bo goes off to college and really, there's a year or so that just didn't race any. And, I was still in high school and I was playing football and baseball and I was a pretty decent baseball player, being recruited and, doing all that. My granddaddy saw that opportunity to get me and Seth and my cousin. And I spent a ton of time with him. I'd go up every summer and, see them in Michigan. Him and his mom lived in Michigan. So we'd go up there every summer and do that.
Yeah.
So he found an opportunity to get us back in racing. Seth had dabbled in the Stinger cars for a little bit.
Yeah.
That was terrible. We just didn't know what to do. Didn't know how to work on them. So my granddaddy bought us I don't even know what it was called back then for him, but it was street stock for me.
Mm-hmm.
Pure stock, maybe, hog car.
Yeah,
I don't remember what they were called at the time, but it ended up being called Novice.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Novice street stock. I don't remember exactly what year it made the change, but Jimmy Goodwin had the track at the time. And we put those two cars together. And first year out, Seth was just my granddad was talking about it when he was here a few weeks ago. He was just a natural wheel man.
Mm-hmm.
He was really, really good at it. And I think he ended up winning 8 races first year in that car.
Oh, wow.
It took me a little while trying to figure the cars out. And I ended up winning 2 toward the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And, I talked about my brother racing. He was good. It didn't win a whole lot of races, but this was back in the day that they were running the old recap tires.
Oh, yeah.
And it didn't matter, and that's the way my granddaddy was. It didn't matter what shocks and springs you had under the car, as long as you had 4 of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
The old 75 Nova that I ended up driving it for just a little bit, like 2 or 3 races, but we had wood wedge blocks that you unbolt the U-bolts on the rear end and jam these wedges in there, and how far that was your adjustment, right?
No doubt.
And then when we went to the sort of, I guess, the metric rear end suspension, like on the 85 Monte Carlos and Cutlasses and stuff like that, it didn't matter. It didn't matter what shocks and springs you had. Those 10-inch tile cities were so forgiving.
Oh, yeah.
You could just do everything off a rollout.
Right.
And we went to this is when Jimmy went to the RC4s,
Yep.
the 10-inch RC4s on the street stock car, and that would expose you because you went from these very, very forgiving retreads that you could still run both of them, and that's the problem. One of the problems I had, we stayed on them a little bit longer than everybody else did. But when we went to that car just it was junk.
Right.
I mean, I could not drive that thing. It would spin out on the trailer, and so I had to start learning setups, and just trying different things. And, I had a few people helping. Dan Allen was great, trying to help me out there. Mike Wedgeworth was another one that, they were trying to just give me a little bit of information here and there. And I come in one night and I was just so frustrated. And I said, I'm going to take everything on this side of the car and I'm going to put it over here, and everything on this side of the car and put it over there. Because it's spinning out more than what I can handle.
Right.
So if it's spinning that way, let's flip it and make it spin this way.
Right.
That was sort of the theory. That was how deep we got.
I think we call that the kitchen sink.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
And I went out there and won the feature.
No shit.
No shit. Sure did. And
you had to have a weak spray or something.
Yeah. So then, my granddad was so hard on us.
Mhm.
We had to be over there washing the car on Sunday. He would give us Monday off, but Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday,
You better be
you
working
were at
on
the
it.
shop.
Right. Yeah.
You know. So then I just started learning, getting more involved with it and learning a lot more. And had my brother had the knowledge that I was able to get through all that, he would have had a lot more success than what I ever had.
Mm-hmm.
But that was around 2006 that we had gotten those cars. I don't remember exactly what year it was I actually started racing. But in 2007, both of us ended up winning the championship.
Oh, wow.
I think it was 30-something races combined that we'd won. Done really, really good with it. And then we jumped over into the late models the next year in 2008.
Whole other ball game.
Whole nother ball game, whole new learning curve. And it started off great out of the gate with that. I mean, several heat race wins, just terrible luck in the features. And this is when, late models were a lot more popular back then. We were running 18, 20 cars a night at Flumpton.
Mm-hmm. That's when the crate class first came out, wasn't it? Yeah.
Not when it first came out. It had been around for a little bit, but it was fully developed at this point. It went through the change where everybody was on 604s.
I got you.
At that point.
Yeah, I got you.
When Jimmy Goodwin first started, it was 602s.
Okay.
And a lot of people, that's somebody you need to get on the show, Jimmy Goodwin.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's on the list.
Yeah, he's
on the list.
A lot of people gave him a lot of crap, but he was a really good promoter.
Yeah.
As far as being innovative.
Yeah.
He started the Stinger class down here.
Mm-hmm.
I remember there being 35 of those things going into turn one, and every one of them wrecking.
Yeah.
And 2 by 2, they all pulled out of it. No caution.
Mm-hmm.
They get back around there again. Doing it again, baby.
I do want to say this because my Stinger guys, when I was race directing at Southern, and it may have been just that error, but the Stinger cars put on the best show all night and the least cautions. They gave me the least.
Oh, they're the best.
Yeah,
they're the best.
They used to. I remember they were always last class. I used to roll onto the track and I would sit there and I would come on the race saver and I'd be like, all right, guys, show all these other guys you had on the track before you how to do it.
Yeah, yeah. And they were great. Those guys, of course, they had their own problems, just like every class. But, man, if you could get the late model guys to act like the Stinger guys, other than revving the engines up in the pits.
Yeah, yeah.
Those late model engines wouldn't last the way those things do.
Right.
But, and when are we going to call them bang bangers around here officially?
Yeah. We need to do something.
We need that has to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we got over the late models. Just like I said, just had some bad luck in the features, but man, we just winning heat races. Just doing really good. Well, then it started. The technology just swings so fast in those late models, and I tore up the front end on the car, and I went to a different shock setup that the chassis was not ready for, and I was putting the rack into the track, and I was too proud to really reach out for help when I did. So the rest of 2008 was abysmal at best. Just trying to chase problems that I had created by going away from the shocks that I had on the car.
Right.
So 2008 didn't end up very well. And then Seth had moved off to college up to Lima, Ohio. He'd done that. And then in 2009 is when Jimmy, at the end of 2008 was Jimmy's last year with the track. And my granddaddy took over the lease in 2009. And he hit me up to help him out. Called me to the kitchen table, called me and Seth both up to the kitchen table. And I said, I want to do this. He said, took the lease over, tried to keep it, I didn't want certain people to get it.
Hey guys, I hope you're really enjoying this conversation with Micha McCall. I know I am and Jake is, but if you want to hear the rest of it, you got to come back next week.
This has been a production of the Short Track Media Group, LLC. Any unauthorized recording, reproduction, or distribution without express written consent from the Short Track Media Group, LLC is strictly prohibited and will result in legal action.